negative. They were bearish. They were all giving arguments as to why cocoa would go much lower. That is normal. This is what you should expect. This is what is required for a bottom to be made. Of course, the psychology had changed by this time. Now let's read what some analysts were saying when cocoa was at 2,700 and moving vertically. You see this advance here? That's just soaring straight up. So it's almost as if it's a gimme to make comments about how high it's going. It's holding up like a Picasso, one guy says. The next stop is 3,000. This person is looking for a rally over the next few weeks of 2,800. It's in a blazing bull market, says another one. Prices to rise, not necessarily in a straight line, but certainly much higher. Here's someone else looking for 3,000. Here's someone else looking for 2,800 to 3,000. Now, it's not really too tough when it's been going up, $100 a week and is currently at 2,700 to say it's going to go to 3,000. I mean, that's kind of just normal extrapolation. But you know what? Never made it. Peaked at 2,800 on a spike, right with the most ebullient psychology, and turned down from there. One of the most interesting comments about cocoa during this rise was how mysterious it was that it was going up, because everyone knew there were many, many stockpiles of cocoa being held, and they couldn't understand why the price was going up. The reason is it had already gone too far on the downside, and it was time for psychology to change. And this goes on and on. They're bearish at the bottom, bullish at the top, bearish at the bottom. It goes on forever. If you've missed a move in a market recently, don't worry about it. There's another one coming up, and it'll have the same characteristics, the same wave shape, the same psychology, the same kind of news that's trying to throw you off the track. And once you get used to all that, it starts to be like a replay. And you're starting to watch the same thing over and over. And after a few years, something may happen to you, which has happened to me. I don't look at the name of the chart anymore. I don't care what it is. I've seen this happen before. I look for 5s and 3s, and I look for the rules to be satisfied, the guidelines to be satisfied. I don't even know sometimes when somebody puts a chart in front of my nose whether I'm looking at a 5-minute bar or a weekly bar. You interpret it the same way. And once you get used to that and start ignoring what's irrelevant, it will not only make you a better trader, but it will keep you from getting tripped up as much by listening to all the news. Now, news has some value, but it's exactly the opposite of the way most people think it has value. And that is, let's suppose you've decided that a new bull market has started in the market you're watching. And all of a sudden, a piece of very bad news comes out, and the market, probably because it was at the end of a wave 1 or a 3 or a 5, on the way up, moves sharply lower. Most people are looking at that news and saying, oh my gosh, terrible news, I better get out before I get hurt. What's your answer to that news? Buy. You look at the wave structure and decide where the low should occur, and you buy it. You use that news to your advantage, not your disadvantage. And that's what having a perspective, an overall perspective on the market can do for you. With these rules and guidelines and wave counting exercises that we've done today, you could quit right now and you would know more about the wave principle than 90% of the people who are putting letters and numbers on charts for publication today. As long as you stuck to those rules and guidelines, you would know more than they know, and you would do better than they do. And I'm convinced that you would be able to assess markets better than 80 or 90% of the professional market analysts out there today also. However, there's still a lot more of value behind the wave principle. There's a lot more to learn, and that's what the rest of today and tomorrow are going to be dedicated to. So stick around. Thank you.
If you would like to participate in the wave counting quiz, examine this wave structure and label the chart in your workbook. Robert Prechter's discussion of the correct labeling will begin in 30 seconds.
All right. Got a little surprise here. I know you weren't expecting this at this time. I think it's time to take a look at our quiz. Now, apparently, you were asked to turn one in a while ago and none showed up. At least none with your signatures on them. But I'm sure some of you figured this one out. Let me ask this question first. How many people here were able, in their opinion, to count successfully a 5-wave upward movement? Okay. How many people thought it was something other than a 5-wave movement to the upside? Okay. Well, I think it is extremely difficult to count this as 5 up. I would go as far as to say impossible, but there would probably be one way you could get away with it if absolutely no other count were available. I'm not going to show it to you because I don't want anybody to try it. However, this is clearly an ABC count. It's a very simple corrective pattern, not complex as you might think. In any case, let's try 5s first. Would it be acceptable to go 1, 2, and then have a subdividing third wave up to there? The answer is no. That's right. You've got overlap between wave 4 and 1. Could you have an extended first wave, a 2, 3, 4, and somehow get a 5 out of that? No, because the third is the shortest. Every time you try to make a 5 out of this, you should have had problems. You should have ended up breaking a rule and therefore saying it can't be a 5. The quickest way to deal with this, and it involves something that a lot of people have difficulty finding until they've seen a lot of them. It's a triangle in the middle. So it's a simple ABC count. Now, I must admit I threw you a little curveball by saying this had to come down at least to this level, but I did say at least. And eventually, of course, you'd probably see something like that. That is a rally in a bear market. The first clue to identifying the fact that you're in a corrective wave is that trying to count 5 waves up, or even the beginning of some 5-wave upward pattern is difficult or impossible. And the harder it is, the more likely a correction is in force. So I think this may not be the only interpretation, but it's the best one. It's the neatest. It's the most economical. One reason it's better to use a simple ABC count when you have a choice between counting something as an ABC or as a double zigzag, ABC x ABC, is that this could easily be followed by an X wave itself. X down to here, you see, and then another ABC pattern. And if you'd already counted it as a double zigzag, you wouldn't be expecting that to happen. In this case, it counts as a simple correction quite easily.
The purpose of this quiz was to reveal whether you had learned 2 key rules of the wave principle well enough to know that the formation was not a 5-wave structure, but had to be a corrective structure. For a full understanding of the patterns available so that the ABC wave count would have been precisely identical,